focusing on. Look, the reality is that Nigeria should brace up for very tough times. I can imagine what would happen if this subsidy, because there seems to be a complete consensus among the political class on the removal of subsidy. Nobody is talking, and if you look at the Punch report, there's a part that the Ipman chairman is saying that, look, the solution is for us to repair our refineries. How I wish I can sit down with the president of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, to ask him, what would you say that after almost 8 years, your government was not able to fix just one refinery from the four that we have in the country? What would you say to that? Is it not a complete failure on the part of this government with all of the promises they made about fixing our refineries, about the fact that something was a scam, it was going to die natural death if we're able to refine locally? And here we are now. The only thing they keep telling us is we're going to remove subsidy. We're going to start gathering removal of subsidy. I think subsidy itself is one demon that we should not hear about. I keep saying that subsidy is not a problem. It is Nigeria that has made it a problem with corruption. All over the world, governments everywhere subsidize things for their people. It's a way of helping the vulnerable and the less privileged in the different countries.
Right. Well, thank you.
Security funds in the Western world. It's a form of subsidy to help people out of poverty.
Right.
But the situation is, Nigerians, I suspect, are not paying attention to these things. We think, it's just about electing a president. No. There are things that the president that we elect in 2023 will come and inherit that will become a big problem for us if we are not careful. We have to address it for now. And one of it is this oil situation, this petroleum situation that we have.
Well, thank you very much. The breakdown in communication is also a problem. We really don't know how to reconcile some of the information that comes out. One person says this, the finance minister says this, consumption numbers. We don't even know how to reconcile all these figures. So that's why more people are confused regarding this. Anyways, you can get more information on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. So let's get to the next headline on here. Nigeria's next president should come from the southeast, says the NCEF, I beg your pardon. The headline, the writers to the story says, inflammatory statements by politician, clerics threatening Nigeria's corporate existence, decries failure of INEC, security agencies to check trend. So the headline here, for equity, peace, justice, Nigeria's next president should come from the southeast. The National Christian Elders Forum, NCEF, has said the southeast zone of the country should produce the next president in the next month's general election in the interest of equity, justice, and peace. It also warned against inflammatory statements by politicians, of course, and I know that even you, for one, Fuad, has spoken about the fact that politicians are not very circumspect when they're making public statements. Most of their statements are, riddled with, religious sentiment, ethnic sentiment, and they create, they somehow, in a way, with their statements, fuel the already building up anger built up anger that most of the electorates have with we're being marginalized, we're being excluded from economic developments and what have you. So can we talk about how, first things first, Christian associations or religious bodies generally, their involvement in politics? I don't know how I feel about it personally. Their involvement in politics, I don't know about that. You probably have an opinion on this. And also their advice that if we want equity, if we want peace, if our ultimate goal is justice, then we should produce a southeastern president. Does that mean that a failure to do this would incite unrest in the country, that the consequence of not doing this would be nothing to write home about?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have rotational presidency in our constitution. That's the unfortunate thing. It's not the provision in our constitution here that we should rotate the presidency within regions. We have 6 geopolitical zones as we speak. Of course, there have always been arguments that, look, it's important that we carry every region along. If for example, people will tell you that, look, if you talk about the 6 geopolitical zones we have, yes, we have the southeast. What of the north-central? Are they short at power? Are they the president in this political dispensation? So you can continue to argue about some of these things, whether there's a region that decides it or not. But unfortunately, we don't have that provision yet in our constitution to say, okay, let's rotate the presidency among these geopolitical zones, and to give every region a sense of belonging. But what I see is now, we'll have to go with what is provided in the constitution. It means everybody has to go to the polls, irrespective. If you look at the 18 political parties now, all regions are well represented. You have the northeast, you have the northwest, you have the north central, you have the southeast, you have the southwest, all on the ballot this time. So it means that we just have to go for what is provided in the constitution. People go out there and vote their conscience and vote who they think is the right president for the country. Yes, I understand that for sake of equity and justice, we may begin to throw up that conversation on whether the Southeast should get the ticket. But like I said, the constitution does not provide for a general presidency. And some people are going to say that, look, ordinarily the PDP should have been the party to compensate the Southeast with his ticket because of the loyalty, the support that they've always gotten from the Southeast. It's almost like a PDP region. But that again is another conversation. And then for religious bodies getting involved in politics, this is an association of a Christian body, just one of the Christian bodies, an association that we have. There are so many of them. I'm sure there are also other Christian bodies now that will say something different or even tilt towards another political party. It's all within their rights. I think the most important is for Nigerians to go on election day, go out there at the different polling units and vote with their informed conscience. That's the most important for me.
Well, thank you very much. There's another story here that's somewhat related to that. You can get details of that on page 10, actually. Page 16 is somewhat similar to the story on page 10. We do have here Olufason says that, Obi's victory, this is a quote now, Obi's victory would assuage the legitimate agitation for president of Igbo extraction and create inclusivity that unites Nigeria. So another person here, Olufason, is of the opinion that if we allow Igbo presidency, then that feeling of marginalization or that concept of marginalization and exclusion would die a natural death. Allowing somebody of an Igbo extraction to rule the country would truly portray the idea that we've been trying to sell, that we are really united as one nation. Do you think that maybe there's a political solution to this, as much as yes, there's no zoning or rotational presidency, or well, the parties decided not to zone after they had promised to initially? That's not really the conversation for today. That, don't you think that there's a solution, there's maybe a technique that can be employed rather to allow Igbos be included more in the process of leadership in the country?
Well, the issue of agitation, the different agitations we have in different parts of the country, I think is beyond just region or the regions producing the president. I'm sure if you ask people agitating in the Southeast what the solutions to the agitation are, it's not because they want to produce a president, or if they produce a president, automatically the agitation will stop.
Self-determination.
Sorry?
Self-determination.
Yeah, self-determination, agitation, and all of those things. I don't think that, or the fact that they produce a president will mean that they will not continue to agitate.
Right. There
are other issues that they've always been bringing to the table and all of that. We had produced a Yoruba president before in Nigeria, in the statue of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. But you see how people in the Southwest agitated, the Yoruba nation people. So I don't think that, because immediately the Southeast produced a president, all the agitations in the Southeast will stop. There are still some other issues. Remember that agitations are also coming from, the living standard of the people in that region. What are they getting from governance? You could have a president from your region and still not get the benefit of government if you are not careful.
Yes.
That's the reality of governance. Some Yorubas will tell you that for 8 years, Obasanjo, what exactly did he do in the Southwest, for example? If it's about producing a president from your region, what are the tangible things that you can say, for 8 years, so these were the things Baba did in the Southwest? That will say, Yoruba, say, they got all the benefits of government because they produced a Yoruba president. So
many has said the same. Many has said the same about this administration as well. They are comparing the growth in the northern part of the country, regardless of the fact that the president is a northerner.
The level of poverty in the country too. There have been reports, even from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, different reports to show that, look, the north is still the most impoverished region in the country, despite producing presidents after presidents from the north. So, all these arguments and all of yes, for sake of fairness, equity, and justice, we can have that conversation. We can always bring it to the table that yes, we should look at producing a president from the Southeast, for sake of, inclusivity and all of those kinds of arguments. But like I said just earlier on, unfortunately, we don't have that issue of rotational presidency captured in our constitution for now. So we just have to do what we need to do. But the most important for me, I will repeat again, is for Nigerians to go out there, look at any of the presidential candidates that is talking to the issues, bringing up solutions to our problems, and then vote with an informed conscience.
Right, well, thank you very much. Let's move on. We have the story here, page 32 of the Vanguard newspaper. Oshodi Apapa gridlock, tout extorting us have Lagos government backing. Truckers, freight forwarders have spoken. Well, the writers to the story, of course. Truckers raise alarm. Extortion driving transportation cost. Government mum on the allegations and moves to clear the gridlock. So the truckers, under the aegis of the Council of Maritime Transport Unions and Association, COMTUA, and freight forwarders, have alleged that the tout extorting them in Oshodi Apapa gridlock have the backing of the Lagos State government. Conversations around how is it that these, should I say, street urchins, because that's just the only way I can describe them, their continuous operations on the roads, how is it that they have maintained such a strong position year after year, despite all the reports, despite all the strikes? Because I do remember Nupen going on strike because they complained that their workers are being extorted, and they sometimes, in a bit to maneuver these individuals, even cause accidents on the road. And now the drivers are saying that, why is the Lagos State government so silent about this situation? Look at the traffic situation, see how much commuters have to pay to use the road at this particular time, and all of these things are interconnected, from the fuel scarcity to the truck drivers not being able to move. They tarry on the road because they can't move the products because they don't have the products, and now these street urchins are taking advantage of the situation, and the government seems to be silent about it. What is your analysis on this particular situation?
I think I was in Apapa a few days ago, and it's one of the things that the story of Apapa is one that you look at, you see, and you just shake your head. It just goes to show that maybe there are people who are above the law in this country, and there's no way they will be above the law if they are not enabled by the authorities, by people in power. I agree with the truckers that there's no way these street urchins, as you describe them, say, or these miscreants, or these touts, there's no way they will be so emboldened without the support of the state government. It's unfortunate. Remember that there was a time that a presidential task force was set up to clear the gridlock in Apapa, to bring sanity to that region, to that area. And I think that task force was even headed by the vice president himself, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And nothing, they could not find solution to Apapa stage. Isn't that unbelievable? A new presidential task force was set up, headed by the vice president, to look for solutions and ensure they cleared that entire Apapa, and they could not find a solution to it. Apapa has become a big racket stage. It has become a big business, a big racket, and the conspiracy is between the security operatives, the touts, some state government officials, and even some of the operatives of MPA are all benefiting from the rot that we see in Apapa, and we are almost helpless. It's almost like it's a completely helpless situation, hopeless situation as we see in a country where there's a government too. It is Lagos. So I agree with the truckers that look, there's no way they would not have been enabled by the state government. For them, the level of impunity, the boldness to do what they do, they export them, collect all manner of levies from them, parking fees. I say it's a big racket. What is going on in that place?
They go as far as destroying these vehicles. They will remove their mirror, what have you. Even harass the driver himself if he tries to prove sure. If he tries to do Hokoga, they will pick you up.
Sage, when we go to Apapa, it's a completely confused situation. You have different people holding different positions, different crowd groups, different. There's a way you look at an environment and you're completely confused about what exactly is going on. Everybody seems to hold his own park and location, and you have people running up and down. The truckers, the roads are bad. They're almost tilting on cars. And that's why some people even avoid ever going to Apapa. If I have my way, that's one part of Lagos I don't even want to go to because of the confusion there.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad. Let's hope that security operatives get on top of this situation, because if we refer back to yesterday, yeah, actually yesterday in the papers, whilst we were speaking with Sandra, if you remember, there was a headline where the security operative said that these urchins have taken over. They are not allowing us control the traffic, and what are we supposed to do? If we try to, fight them or weigh them off, it might escalate, and there will be casualties and what have you. So the security operatives are always saying that it might become Ijaigoro. So they just decided to leave it.
They are above the law. These towns are above the law. You can see what I'm saying.
Right. All right. Well, that's it for the Vanguard newspaper. You're still listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. Of course, Fuad Said is still here with us for analysis. Let's move on very quickly to the Punch newspaper. Headline on here, just like Fuad had predicted, he has superpowers. Fuel scarcity bites harder. Marketers blame NNPCL. Riders to the story, Ipman to sell petrol at 270 naira per litre as supply gap widens, lingers. NNPC GMD defends subsidy, all production now 1.52 Mbpd. That is the story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Trading blame is not really something that we should be surprised about. Anytime there's a situation with the NNPCL, is always Ipman is responsible, the marketers are responsible, the transporters are responsible, it's the depots that are hoarding and causing artificial scarcity. It's really difficult to hold somebody responsible when things like this happen. Well, as the petrol scarcity across the country continues to linger, all marketers have accused the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited of politicizing the supply process and making vain promises. NNPC depots, they don't even have the product, which is confusing. Private depots are the ones that have it. So how do we make sense? That's what I was saying earlier about reconciling certain information. How is it that NNPC depots do not have the product, but somehow private depots are able to get it? And I think that is what gave birth to this accusation by the marketers that the process is now being politicized. Please help us understand. It will be difficult to understand this situation, to be honest, because the information doesn't even really make sense to me. So how exactly do we make sense of this now that the marketers are saying NNPCL are deliberately doing this for whatever benefits they might want to enjoy? Because I don't see what benefit there is for the NNPCL with this system that they've decided to adopt, if the accusation by the marketers is even true.
Well, the reality is that we don't have the right information. Nobody is telling us anything as far as this situation is concerned. I think some few days ago, when some officials of NNPC were going around shutting down filling stations on the guys that they were selling above the regulated price, I said it was just pure hypocrisy. The reality is that if there were no disruption in supply, nobody would be bold enough to sell above the approved price, regulated price. The question we should ask ourselves is what led to the disruption in supply? With all of the assurances that we have been getting from NNPC that there's enough, the country is wet, we have enough supply. The reality is that there are people benefiting from what is going on. Or maybe there's an official decision to remove subsidy without our knowledge, to do it in this manner, and then create this disruption and then allow Nigerians to buy at this price. Because again, the question is, why are the depots selling to independent marketers at unofficial prices or regulated price? Because if you read the story further in the Punch, the marketers are saying that they are buying at between 235 to 240 naira per litre from the depot. So if you buy at that, if you are a business person, would you go and sell at 167 or 170 naira? Is it a charity? So the reality is that, look, unfortunately, like I said, there's a criminal silence, and I continue to say it is criminal. But yes, of course, they will go scot-free with it, because the level of impunity in this government has gotten to a particular level that you don't even know what to say again. Because nobody is saying anything, nobody is bothered. We are not hearing anything from NNPCL. The GMD went before the house, there were no figures, there were no data, and nothing happened. Heavens did not fall. They brought in bad fuel into this country. People suffered it. Heaven did not fall. No consequence.
Was
this one would also go through without any consequence. That's the reality.
Well, the Ipman official,
situation we found ourselves.
yeah, the Ipman official did say that the queues wasn't on Wednesday, and that as at last Friday, they bought the product from the depots at 235 to 240 naira per litre, saying there was no way they would sell the product below 270 naira per litre, even within Lagos metropolis. So that telling us point blank, there's really nothing regulated or not regulated. We're not here to, it's not a charity organization like you said. We cannot be running at a loss. So if we continue to buy at that price from the depots, people would have, the pump price would have to be, I don't know what the pump price would be if it's being sold to the marketers at 270 litre. Then I don't even want to begin to wonder what the pump price is going to be at the end of the day.
If the marketers are saying that in Lagos they will sell at 270, just imagine what will happen in Oyo, Kogi and this other state. God knows, maybe they're already buying at 400 naira per litre as we speak. Because by the time you look at the cost of haulage, transporting it, and all of those logistics that comes with it, so we now continue to ask ourselves. I think the critical question we should ask NNPC, but again, you ask these questions as journalists, you throw it at them, you try to reach them. You send mails, you send questions. Nobody talks to you. That's the level of impunity that we have. The question is, are we still subsidizing? Are we still paying subsidy? If for the last 1 month now, say, I've been buying at 250 naira per litre, am I being subsidized? Are they still paying subsidy? Or have been buying at 250 naira per litre? But nobody is telling us anything, and they will not tell us anything. Because again, we've come to identify this government with not talking to us with high levels of impunity, which is unfortunate.
Right. Well, let's see what happens at the end of the day. Maybe we'll start riding horses or we'll start buying cars. I don't know. What will happen?
Ipman is still saying. So if you look at the solution that Ipman has suggested, it is still the basic thing that we've been saying. Fix our refinery. That's what Ipman is saying in that story. And when we fix our refineries, these tales of woe, sorrow, and despair will continue. And nobody should come and tell me about Dangote refinery so that they don't get me annoyed this morning.
I'm sure nobody would mention it. Anyways, page 2 of the Punch newspaper has that story if you would like to read further. Still on page 2, train attack, 2 Edo chiefs, 5 others arrested. I think this is a development with the abduction that happened at Igwebe train station in Edo State. So we do have here, the Edo government has confirmed the arrest of 2 village chiefs in connection with the January 7 train attack, which resulted in the kidnap of 20 passengers at Igwebe train station. The State Commissioner for Communication and Orientation, Chris Hikari, disclosed that 7 other suspects had also been arrested in connection with the incident, adding that 2 remaining passengers in captivity had been rescued by security agents. Since the rescue, we've rescued 2, we've rescued 8. You've been asking questions that as you're rescuing these people, are you also are you also arresting those who are responsible for the attack? How did that happen? Are you rescuing and arresting simultaneously? But then we don't have enough information for us to even make any deductions regarding that. Well, this report is saying 7 people have been arrested, including 2 traditional leaders. We don't know if these traditional leaders are arrested because they were complicit in the abduction, or maybe they failed in their duties because, of course, Governor
they were arrested because they were complicit.
Because the governor did say that any traditional ruler that is harboring criminals in domain, they would be punished for it. So are these traditional rulers, are they harboring criminals in their domain? Are they complicit in the kidnapping? What benefit is there for them? Are they going to share out of the ransom money, of which we don't know if the process of rescuing had anything to do with ransom? But if you're trying to make sense of this, what benefit do you have if people in your community are being abducted? It speaks very poorly of you as a leader if people are being abducted under you. So how is it that traditional rulers are involved in the kidnapping of people that are supposed to be under their own protection?
Well, it's not impossible, Sage. When money is involved, anything can happen. And I think this is not the first time that we're hearing of traditional rulers getting involved with kidnappers and criminal gangs in their domain. Even in the north, in Zamfara and some other places, you have situations where traditional leaders, community leaders, even in the height of Boko Haram troubles in the northeast, there were situations where locals were found culpable, complicit in some of these things. So it's about money, it's about making money, and unfortunately, kidnapping has become a big business in Nigeria with huge sums of money paid as ransom. So, but I like the fact that somehow the government has been able to do well. If indeed they rescued all the kidnapped victims, I think we have to commend them. How they were able to do that, we don't have the complete information. Maybe it's a bit of a discreet information that they don't want to open up on yet. Well, it's fine, but at least it's cheerful to know that they rescued all the kidnapped victims. On all of the questions you asked about the traditional rulers, how the arrests were made, and what were the issues, I think we'll have to wait till when some of these people have their day in court.
Yeah.
I would assume that they will be moving from the level of being just ordinary suspects to the point where they will be prosecuted for this crime. So I think we just have to hold on till when they are presented in court eventually, and then we can then follow the case and give a proper report on it.
Right. Well, if you read this report further, it would seem that some people are not very comfortable with the arrest of these traditional rulers. The executive director, Eson Youth for Good Governance, says that these chiefs are innocent, adding that their arrest had a political undertone. He says, and this is me quoting, this is me reading verbatim, "You see, the government is playing politics. The chiefs were never accused of being perpetrators. The arrest of the traditional rulers have a political undertone because these days they are now partisan. They are not supporting his political party. That is why the governor is trying to use them as scapegoats." This is a very huge accusation.
This is not also impossible. Again, with politics, we can do anything. Politicians are capable of doing anything. The government is a politician, and sometimes, you remember the offer robbery. There have still been questions that was not answered. How Saraki got involved, the offer robbery, the counter accusations and accusations. So I wouldn't want to, like I said, luckily we are a country governed by law. So if these traditional rulers are not culpable in any way, they are not complicit in any way, they'll be presented before the court, and they have their day in court, and they'll be able to defend themselves. They hire lawyers to defend them. So we should be careful to over speculate or over assume what must have happened. But if they are arrested because they are complicit or for whatever, they're presented in court and they will have their day in court and have an opportunity to defend themselves.
Right. Page 2 of the Punch newspaper is where you will get more information. So let's move forward. Page 12 has the story. MV stopped Abiola from emerging president, says Obasanjo. So page 2, Let's read further. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said that he became who he is today due to the moral virtues and sound education impacted by him in Abeokuta State. He says that MK Abiola, regards to the election, excuse me, he said, I'm trying to put this together, that the fact that MK Abiola was envious was why he was unable to attain the position. He says that in 1994 he was arrested and detained in prison on charges of treason after declaring himself president based on the outcome of the election, and he died in detention. So he says that the fact that MK Abiola was envious, that's one of the things that really stopped him from becoming president, and the fact that he proclaimed himself, president, like he believed it was a straight win and what have you. These are some of the reasons that prevented MK Abiola from attaining that position of the first man of the nation. What does envy have to do with any of this, or do you think this is poor wording actually?
Sorry, Sage, I don't want to get annoyed this morning.
Please don't be angry.
I'm trying to just take water now. I want to beg you to please read that story again. Start from the headline and read the story again before I now make my comment. Okay. I'm just begging you.
Yeah, so let me read the quote. If not for Nigeria, but
the headline. Let's start with the headline.
Okay. Envy stopped Abiola from emerging president, says Obasanjo. So I want to read the quote. He says that bad belle is an expression from pidgin commonly used in English. Okay, in the metaphorical sense, Abiola won the presidential election. So apparently, it was envy from other people, not MK Abiola envying someone. It was envy from other people. That's what the story is saying. Other people were envious of MK Abiola, because he of course believed that it was a straight win. He deserved to take that seat. He had everything that he needed, and maybe this confidence evidence did not exactly sit well with many people, and Obasanjo said it was the bad belly of certain people that they did everything they could to prevent MKO from becoming president.
Does he know those people? Was he part of those people? This is the same Obasanjo at the eyes of all of this when he became president, riding on the sacrifice of Chief MK Abiola, because we have to say this, whether anybody likes it or not. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo would not have become president in 1999 without that ultimate sacrifice of Chief MK Abiola after losing the elections. The fact that he stood firm to fight for his right, to ensure that democracy is sustained and enshrined in the country. That was what put pressure on the military. He died for that cause. And that ultimate sacrifice was what produced him in 1999. For 8 years as president, what did he do to immortalize MK Abiola? Did he do anything? Didn't he say at some point that MK was not a desire? You see, Baba is an old man, which you respect him. You understand that sometimes some of these things happen, okay, comes. You see, he's making some statements in recent times that will infuriate people that know all of these things. Some people don't understand some of this history, that too young to see these things. But some of us that witnessed this thing, that know when he eventually became president in 1999, what Afenifere was telling him, what the Yoruba leaders were telling him about what he needed to do, at least to immortalize Chief MK Abiola. It had to take Buhari to come and do it. Did he do anything for 8 years, just in remembrance and memory of Chief MK Abiola? Even the June 12th, the June 12th date that was suggested, that hey, make this date a democracy day, just to at least to honor the memory of this ultimate sacrifice by this man from the same state, the same Abeokuta. He didn't do anything. If he's talking about envy, he's one of the people that led the enviness at that time. Because he said that he's not a messiah. So Baba should spare some of these tales of, I think we should just move on.
Don't be angry. Don't be angry. All right. So let's move on. So we have another story here. I don't know if this one would make you less angry. You probably would be more infuriated. But the page 20 of the Punch newspaper is reporting Emefiele appeals court summons challenges judge. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has filed his appeal against the ruling of a federal high court in Abuja, which compelled him to appear in the $53 million judgment debt suit. Now, Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court had, in his ruling last year, summoned the CBN governor over his alleged refusal to obey the order of the court for the payment of the judgment debt in favor of a legal practitioner. Emefiele is so many summons. There's so many come and answer about certain things about this policy. There's also the parish refund money that was in the papers yesterday, and now there's a whole you're supposed to pay a certain legal practitioner so amount of money, $53 million, and then Emefiele is appealing. He doesn't want to go there. So why exactly, if you have nothing to hide, and I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but if you have nothing to hide, what is so difficult about going to someone's or coming? It's not like you're being arrested or nothing like that. You're being invited to come and answer questions, shed more light on these misunderstandings, because a lack of information will give room for speculations, and that is why we are seeing speculations now. So what exactly is it with Emefiele and refusing to answer someone's? He's going as far as appealing the court to someone just so he doesn't have to go there and answer questions.
Well, because it's a court case, you will not dwell on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to make too much comment. But I think we should be worried that Emefiele has too many questions to, because of his performance as the CBN governor, his involvement with too many things, and some of the issues that have cropped up under his leadership of the CBN. There are too many things, that he now has to answer to, so many questions hanging around him, his performance as the CBN governor and all of that. He has the right to approach courts to, quash summons and all of that. It's within his right to do all of that. And like I said, because it's a court case, I don't want to speak too much about it. But you are right to say, why is it that Emefiele doesn't want to talk to anybody? He doesn't want to answer any questions. The House invites him, doesn't want to go. DSS invites him, he finds a way around it, he doesn't want to go there. courts are summoning him. He doesn't want to go there. Is it that he doesn't want to account to Nigerians? He doesn't want to be questioned? Is he running a dictatorship at the CBN? Because it's like at every point where he's called to answer questions, he just finds a way around it. He doesn't want to answer anybody. Like I said, the House has invited him, he never appeared. The DSS recently talked about, inviting him to answer questions on terrorism financing. He found a way around it. These are court summons too that he has to go again and challenge them in court and all of that. And so we ask ourselves, who is backing the CBN government? What manner of operations are we getting from the CBN government? Is he running the dictatorship at the CBN? And that's why I said yesterday that the reason why we're not even getting enough information from the CBN is that maybe, and I say maybe, he's running it all by himself. If the deputy governor of the CBN cannot even tell us the exact figures of how much has been printed, new notes.
They're not aware of the process.
Are we in a station where the CBN governor is running the show alone?
All right. Because of time, let's move away from this. One more story here in the Punch, and then we can look at the stories in the front pages of the other papers. Federal government owes China, Japan, Germany, two others, $4.85 billion. Page 20 of the Punch newspaper has this information. The federal government of Nigeria borrowed about $3.27 billion from 5 countries between June 30, 2015 and September 30, 2022. There's a lot of figures on here that I don't even know how or where we want to begin.
I think we should just
I don't know. China, France, Japan. We borrowed from India. No. How do we borrow from? Anyways, I don't even want to start comparing economies. Well, how do we borrow from India? But okay.
Anyways, India is a big economy.
Well, in comparison, if you junk the
that's like the Republic is not there.
Zimbabwe. Anyways, our bilateral debt is currently 12.24% of the total external debt of $39.66 billion, excluding state external debt. I don't want to say we are in trouble, but I don't know how they want to. I don't know.
Because enough about the debt level, both domestic and foreign, both at the federal and state level. So they don't waste too much time. Nigerian those we are owing.
Well, page 20 of the Punch, if you're interested in, seeing all the figures, there's a lot of figures. Trust me, you will not be very excited about it. Anyways, the Guardian newspaper, let's check this. So we do have here 1 billion anti-terrorism spending. Posers on Buhari's security success. Riders to this, how over invoicing, lack of transparency make nation unsafe. No price too high to pay for political stability. Retired Deputy IGP justifies anti-terrorism funding. Insecurity worse under current administration. CISLAC insists. As you know, again, this is a developing story. The president said that, we have spent $1 billion on, anti-terrorism, acquiring weapons, hardware, what have you, this and this. And, a lot of people are like, how is this possible? Why is it that the spending is not commensurate with the security of the nation? The writers to the story, as we see here, always it says how over invoicing, lack of transparency makes the nation unsafe. So I guess this is an insinuation that how is it that you are able to spend 1 billion? Don't you think that over invoicing, writing amounts that you say you buy something at so amount and that's not how much you bought it? That is why these figures climbed up so high.
Well, Sage, we are not the accountant general or the auditor general. So,
sure.
But again, it's a bit of a big worry to hear that we spent $1 billion fighting insurgency in the north. I've seen the supporters of the government or some of the officials of government come out to say, hey, before this administration came in, Boko Haram was holding about 6 to 7 local governments in Borno State. Yeah. They were in charge, but now it's just about a local government or 2. And so I say, so we spent $1 billion to just chase them out of 4 local governments, and they're still keeping 2 local governments in Borno State as we speak. So how well have we spent $1 billion? A whole $1 billion.
It's from 2015 anyway, so maybe.
That's not just the came in. I don't know $1 billion is that chicken change. And then it would have been nice to see a breakdown of how that money was spent. Again, because it's security issues, we may not get a breakdown because, when it comes to security issues, financing, you don't bring all of that to the public. But Yes, somehow we've been able to tame Boko Haram, the insurgency in the northeast. But people are saying that hope these guys didn't just dissolve into other parts of the country as bandits. Because what you now have is a situation where the northeast is a bit safer from what we had pre-2015. But you now have more problems in the northwest, the north central. And people are saying that hope is not this guy that simply just migrated into the northwest and then the north central and causing all manner of chaos, kidnap and problem across the country. But again, what we should pay attention to is that we have spent $1 billion fighting this. That money, I think, would have been spent on more meaningful things if we didn't have that problem before they came in.
Right.
So we need to ask ourselves again, what did we get from that $1 billion? That's a debate I will continue to talk about.
Right. Let's move faster. So there's this one here that I really want us to talk about. Still in the Guardian newspaper, page 4. That's where we have this story. That's for those of you who would like to read further. Buhari okays 1.9 trillion approved for the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited to invest 1.9 trillion in reconstruction of 44 federal roads under the tax credit policy. Is this your job, really? Why don't you focus on your sector and let the people who are taxed with the responsibility of fixing the roads do their jobs? I don't understand why the president is okaying money for NNPC, or if there's something I'm missing, Fuad, please educate us.
You see, the thing is this: we're a country where things are completely muddled up. We are not processing NNPC involved in fixing of roads. But they've always done it on the guys that own truckers, they have these special funds they set aside to do all of these things. And those are the lack of transparency, lack of processes that allow for corruption. Now this money has been approved. Would the NNPC get the Ministry of Works involved? Are they going to get in contractors? Who is going to audit and monitor the disbursement of funds to ensure that the job is done? And then you ask the ultimate question, say, which is very intelligent, why should the NNPC get involved in fixing of roads? And then, at how many months to the end of this government, they are approving this money? Is the money available? Where is the money coming from? Is it from NNPC coffers? Is it budgeted for? Have we captured it in the budget? Again, I think so that we don't waste too much time. We are not process driven. We just do things anyhow. And that's the reason why there's so much corruption, because this creates loopholes for people to dig their hands into this money and steal it.
I don't. Maybe the Minister of Works will soon start. I don't know. Maybe they'll be doing. I don't understand why. I don't know. I don't know.
Not only there are so many things that we do in government that you just look and shake your head. Again, it is what it is. We hope that one day we'll get it right with a leader that will put a proper structure in place and get us on the right path.
Or Minister of Employment should be the one in charge of food importation, maybe the agri sector. I don't know how they do their own things.
We've got to the point where nothing should shock you if you hear them.
Right. Anyways, we have run out of time, unfortunately. My apologies, but we're not really able to take headlines from the nation. But other stories here: CBN allays fears over counterfeit new Naira note. I was offered 10 million visa to implicate Saraki, says of our robbery suspect. I think Fuad mentioned that in passing when he was analyzing one story. Hopefully we can talk about that on Mainland Focus. NDLEA seizes properties, 500 billion drugs in 2 years. APC PPC slams PDP for avoiding response to Atiku Gates. The back and forth is never ending. SANS pulls on the threat by returning officers powers. That's from The Nation. So that's it for trends in the papers for today. Thank you for sticking with us, Fuad. We appreciate you for your in-depth analysis. Mainland Focus would be happening at 8:40, so you can talk to us about.
And it's open mic, right?
Yes, open mic. So you can talk to us about whatever headline really stood out for you. What headline, shocked you the most? What story really had you, scratching your head and what have you? So thank you very much for your participation. At 8:40, we'll be back for Mainland Focus. It's Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola.
Are you in search of a conducive, safe, and very affordable modern superstore in your neighborhood to shop